Everyone. Welcome to what is the Tom show today. Tamara and I will be bringing you the roadmap information from the Great White North of Minnesota, where it's like -10 right now, which is why I'm wearing something more than my regular t-shirt. Yeah, Adam and Jen both had meetings that they needed to go to, so it kind of fell to Tamara and I to carry the show today. So are you ready to do this, Tamara?
I am so ready.
Okay. So as usual, we have 4 statuses, not just 3. In development, which is the stuff that is being currently worked on at Microsoft with an estimated release date. We've got things that are in rolling out, which means it started to make it out to the tenants and the clients based on whether you're in GCC, GCC high targeted, things like that. So you could see it appear pretty much at any point in time. And then there is the launched, which means if you're in the target area where they're sending it out to, you should have it by then. We do have a lot of items in cancellation this time, which we'll go over at the very end. I think it's basically because we're starting the new part of the year and people are kind of going through and looking at the stuff that they had on their roadmap lists and going, don't think those are going to happen this time, or yeah, we've got a delay, or usually as the case is, oh, that's a duplicate of something else. So
we have this on the roadmap 6 times.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. I think we have pretty much all of those situations this week, but we'll go ahead and talk about those at the end. So to get started, Tamara, how would you like to say a few things that floated your boat?
Sure. There is in PowerPoint organization fonts in PowerPoint for the web, Mac and mobile, and for Windows. What this means is that it will allow organizations to add their custom fonts into PowerPoint. So that will be nice. You'll be able to hopefully package up your PowerPoint presentation with those fonts embedded in there so that after you've spent your time making everything look perfect, when your clients open that PowerPoint presentation, they will remain perfect. And then the other thing that I'd like to talk about is app lists and banners in the app management page in Microsoft Teams. So the Manage Apps page today allow admins to manage apps in the tenant. Lists of apps and editorial banners aid the admin to find relevant apps for the tenant. So that's supposed to be releasing in January of this year. So they've only got a couple days left. And the PowerPoint fonts are rolling up for the web in March, Windows in April, and Mac in July. What do you have, Tom?
Well, in terms of the stuff that I would normally talk about, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff in development. So there's only one other item that I actually flagged on my side for that role, and that is on the admin or the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Reports in the admin center. Oh, boy, this is going to be one of those days where I can't talk. Reports in the admin center Vizio usage report. And so the fact that they just recently rolled out Vizio for the browser, or Vizio for the web, they are actually now for the admin center and who uses what and how many people are using what. They've now added Microsoft Vizio to that. So if you're wondering what the usage is of Vizio in your particular organization, you'll now be able to get that from the admin center, which is nice, but don't get your hopes up in the short term because that's not slated until June of 2022. So some of the changes are coming there, but it's not going to be immediate. The other 2 things I'm going to talk about, which I feel like I'm now going to channel Adam because these are the geeky things. Still need to grow my beard out for Adam though. I can't be Adam with a beard.
Or smoke a cigar.
Or smoke a cigar. There you go. Oh God, that would be bad. Hey, let's watch Tom puke on screen now. So there's a couple in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center that I will just basically read because that's what I do when Adam's not here. Communication compliance, analyze linked content from OneDrive and SharePoint Online for modern attachments, which basically means communication compliance policies that detect violations in Microsoft Teams will analyze the content of documents shared in chat for potential policy matches. If that's of interest to you, that's great. It's coming to worldwide. I don't see GCC High or DoD there, and it's not slated until September of 2022. So there's quite a bit of weight on that one. But if that's something that you've been looking for, it's at least off in the distant horizon now, which is better than not there at all. The final one that was on there was communication compliance integration with Power Automate for GCC. And that is integration with Power Automate allows organizations to configure Power Automate flows to automate tasks for communication compliance cases and users, currently available in public preview. So if you're using Power Automate to do some of your checking for things that are, compliance issues, stuff like that, it sounds like you're going to have a lot more capabilities available to you. And again, that is also a September 2022 thing. If you're not in GCC, if you're just regular worldwide client, you may have it in public preview right now. But if you're in the government clouds, you're still going to have to wait for it, at least on the GCC side. Looks like GCC High and DoD are even going to be further out than that. So those are the only things I have in development. Tamara, was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on?
Nope, I'm good. I'm ready for rolling out.
Well, then go ahead and roll on out and take yours.
So this excites and terrifies me at the same time. So this is rolling out at the end of this month, and it's Microsoft Teams auto expiration of meeting recordings stored on OneDrive and SharePoint.
I feel the same way you do on this one.
Are going to find this to be terrifying. And this is rolling out for the worldwide tenant, including Germany, DoD, GCC, and GCC High. And what it means is newly created Teams meeting recordings in OneDrive and SharePoint will be automatically deleted by the service based on a default Teams policy setting. So Teams admins will be able to modify the default meeting recording expiration time via a setting in the Teams admin portal, or by modifying the policy attributes using PowerShell scripts. Now, the newly created meeting recordings in OneDrive and SharePoint will be automatically deleted after this point unless the meeting owner extends the expiration. Now, meeting owners will be notified about expired recordings and may extend the expiration date in OneDrive and SharePoint, but compliance policies will override the expiration setting. So what do you do if you want to keep a recording forever? Do you move it to an asset library in SharePoint?
In theory.
Do you move it out of the recordings folder from your OneDrive?
Yeah.
Is that enough?
Well, and this comes back to, I understand what they're getting for, and I remember hearing something probably at a conference, but saying, telemetry tells us that, after 6 months, 99 point whatever percent of videos never get watched again. Okay, I get that. And you want to keep the environment clean, so on and so forth. However, this goes back to my whole thing of not liking how they're starting to store everything in OneDrive.
Right.
Because when the person leaves, the OneDrive goes away. And granted, the manager should be able to go out and retrieve all the stuff, but how often does a manager know exactly what's going on out there for each of their employees? And you look at this and you go, okay, somebody's going to leave. In fact, I just had something like this yesterday where somebody was trying to look at a recording that a person had done that was stored in their OneDrive, because that's where they're stored now. And she was getting a, hey, access denied, you need to request access. And I said, well, you need to request access from this person. Well, this person left the company on 12/30. So I'm like, okay, you're going to need to reach out to the person's manager to see if they can grant you access to that or give you that video so you can store it somewhere else. But it's like, what happened if that had been like 3 or 4 months from now? That OneDrive would have been gone.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is going to go in through and say, hey, after so many days or weeks or months, whatever,
Right.
poof. I was like, well, they'll be notified beforehand. Notified, but what if they're not there any longer?
Yep.
I actually have flagged this off to the side because I need to go out and take a look at what the options are for being able to extend that out at the teams level by default, because I just see this being a nightmare in terms of content being lost that needs to be kept. If you're not using compliance policies to control stuff like that, yeah, it's not going to be pretty in my view. But yeah,
I'm
that
going to
one's
have to
not a good
agree
one.
with you there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick was Microsoft Teams Mirror My Video. And this I think is great, especially for training, or if you're going to use a background. And Mirror My Video feature provides the user the option to unmirror their video and thereby have the same view as the other users in the meeting. Now, by unmirroring their video, the user will see the text correctly. No more flipped text in backgrounds or while holding a small whiteboard while teaching primary school kids. This feature is helpful. Thank you. You have a blurred background on and it doesn't recognize the note.
Yeah,
So
when I
all we
looked at
saw
that,
was a blurred
yeah,
post-it.
it said hello, and to me, it would read as OLLEH.
Right, but to the rest of us, it reads hello.
Correct.
So this feature is helpful in gallery, large gallery, PowerPoint content only sharing, and PowerPoint live scenarios. So that's rolling out the end of this month. So I'm looking forward to that. What do
Yeah,
you have,
that
Tom?
well, pretty much I only had a couple things flagged in terms of, those types of things. So you took them both. Thank you. Uh,
Well,
so I'm going to switch over to Adam immediately and just go through at a high level, because being that these are rolling out, we likely have mentioned them before in a previous session when Adam does his drive-by on a lot of the things that are in development. But so Microsoft Defender for Office 365, there are a few items for that. They're introducing built-in protection, which means that it'll automatically elevate all users within your organization to the base level of security protection, such as the low impact version of safe attachments, safe links, things like that. So it'll just help you get a certain level of security without you having to go through and do a lot of work for each new person coming in or applying policies and the whole bit. So that's rolling out, should probably be out there. It's December 2021. So it might already be out there in your tenants, but this is DoD, GCC, GCC High, and worldwide. So everybody should be seeing that one. Another one is the email summary panel, which is making it easier for security teams to see the full picture of emails, single integrated view of the email entity page, and now they're making it easier to see this information in multiple experiences. That should be out by the end of this month, and that is worldwide. And then we also have updates for Threat Explorer and real-time detections. They're working towards updating the user experience for Threat Explorer and real-time detection. As part of this update, we will introduce enhancements like all email view by default for Explorer, toggling between chart and grid view, and more. Rolling out should have been the end of last month, and that is worldwide. So if those are things of interest to you, be on the lookout for those. We do have a couple of other things here. For SharePoint and OneDrive, new capabilities in Microsoft 365 information barriers for SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft 365 groups. So there's just new capabilities of being able to work with a scenario where there are information policies where Group A can't talk to Group B in the same tenant and organization. You're going to be able to keep those separate, and there's new things you can work with that. That should be the end of this month, and again, that's worldwide. And then there's communication compliance, review activity summary. So this is just a new comprehensive summary of all activities and actions that have occurred against a policy. That is rolling out. It doesn't have a release date in the column, but that's a worldwide thing. So again, these are things of interest to you. Keep an eye open for them, or check the roadmap to get further information to see exactly what's going on there. And now let's go ahead and switch to launch, which again has a bit more information in it. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Tamara to do what launch things are wonderful for her.
Okay, really excited about this. It does say launched. It doesn't have a date associated with it. And this is the first time I've seen it on the roadmap. And that is Teams Q&A. It's in public review. So it's a question and answers application for Teams webinars and meetings. And by adding this application to any team webinar or meetings, users will be able to create either moderated or unmoderated Q&A experiences. So I'm excited for this because as a person who does training and being the only person in the training, I don't have a moderator with me. It would be nice to have a Q&A where people could type in their questions, and then when it's time to pause for questions, I can simply go through the Q&A. That way, nobody forgets their question, and I'm able to answer the question within the context of the presentation. So I think this is going to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I've had a couple people ask for it and they haven't found it yet. It's like, where is it? Like, I don't know.
It's in public review.
Right.
So I wonder if launched is like the wrong place, but they don't have a public review setting.
Yeah.
And then Yammer and SharePoint for Business. Yammer Conversation Web Parts version 3. We're introducing 3 new configurations of the Yammer Conversation SharePoint Web Part. A new horizontal layout, new filter options to show only questions or all conversations, and a new configuration option to show or hide the Yammer publisher. So that's coming out. So those of you who are using Yammer in conjunction with SharePoint, I think you're going to find that really useful to highlight what's going on in those conversations right on your SharePoint landing page. What do you have going on, Tom?
So with launched, odds are we've talked about some of these things already because they had to go through in development and rolling out. So I'm just going to hit a couple high level here that make me really happy and I'm looking forward to playing with them. One is Excel natural language queries and ideas. So in Excel, you can go to the ideas tab, where I think it actually launches as a side panel on the right side. But with natural language queries, instead of you having to figure out how to formulate, oh, I need the top 10 sales by region. How do I do that? I don't have a clue, which applies to me because I don't do Excel. You can basically say, give me the total number of products, top 10 products by sites, or even more complicated questions like, what percentage of products have sales higher than 2000 in 2018? And it will take that natural language question and formulate the layout to give you those particular answers in your charts and your graphs and stuff like that. I think that is awesome. That is one of the best uses of AI and machine learning that I can even think of, because a lot of times Excel, especially for me, it's like it's more an art than a science, and I don't even get the art or the science on it. Being able to ask basic questions and have it come out with something that looks close to what I need to be looking at, for me, would be great. That's launch, which means you should have it now. December of 2021 was the release date, and that's worldwide. Then a couple of things that are relatively, well, one thing that's relatively small. If you have a list item, which is a yes/no field, in and out of quick edit mode, it will appear using the new experience design format, making it easier to create and more accessible to consume. So if you have yes/no fields in your list and you're looking at them in a view and all of a sudden they look slightly different, this is why. That rolled out at the end of December and it should be out in all the clients right now.
Well, and then I'm glad you're making an advance on that, because right now, yes/no columns are really stupid.
Yeah.
They're a checkbox, and you have to know that checked means yes and empty means no.
Very true.
And that is something that our end users just don't get.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're making advances on this, and I hope it's just going to be a toggle, yes, no.
I think it is, but I can't remember if I've seen.
I haven't seen
that
yet
in our environment. So yeah, I'll have to check on that and see. And then the last thing, which I know I've mentioned a number of times because this just thrills me to no end, and that is Outlook on the web, which I use, share to Microsoft Teams. So you can send a copy of an email message or a conversation, including attachments, into Teams chats and channels, or start a Teams chat related to a specific email message. This is just, I mean, I know that some people sit there and say, well, it should have been in Teams to begin with. Well, it wasn't. And, I don't want to be the person managing 14 sets of replies coming back for this email. I want to be able to take the email that came in, move it over to the relevant team, have it in a chat, and say, okay, let's discuss it over here where everybody's looking at the same thing and they're easily seeing all the responses to it. This to me is a great feature. I love it. It should be out in your tenants now. Again, it's Outlook on the web. It does not say Outlook on the client. So keep that in mind if you're saying, hey, I don't see this out here, but I think I've used it in both. So you may have something equivalent in both. This may just be the web catching up with the client, but yeah, if you need to get stuff out of your email box and get rid of the endless threads of people responding to stuff that others had responded to like 4 days ago, best way to do it, move it to Teams. So
also a great way to lead people down the garden path to Teams.
This is true.
Who are refusing to let go of Outlook. And so they're sending you these messages, and then you can trick them and put it in Teams and force them to have the conversation in Teams. Aha!
Here, let me gently suggest that we don't talk about this here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good thing. Anything else in launch before I go to recap the canceled and we call this a session?
The only other thing that I want to mention, which just cracks me up, is the Walkie-Talkie on iOS.
I still want to play with that.
The Walkie-Talkie is a push-to-talk experience that enables clear and secure voice communication over the cloud. And it enables teams to communicate instantly and always stay on the same page. This native built-in app in Teams turns employee or company-owned iOS smartphones and tablets into a walkie-talkie, reducing the number of devices employees must carry and lowering costs for IT. I have to tell you, I'm having a flashback to when I ran an environmental company out in Oregon in the 90s. And we had cell phones that also had push to talk. They were Nextel phones. And so I feel like we're going back to the 90s now.
The 90s called, they want their phone back.
Exactly. But that's all I wanted to point out. So if you want to go through the slew of canceled items,
I will do that.
It's just a huge amount.
Yeah, they did some massive cleanup here. So buckle in, pull the belts tight. Here we go. Microsoft To-Do list prediction. This item is canceled and removed from the roadmap, but will be republished when the plans solidify in the future. So that was as you add tasks to Microsoft To-Do would suggest what list the task should go into. So that's currently canceled until they figure out what they want to do with that. Vizio, email notifications for app mentions. This is a duplicate of another item. It's just being removed from the roadmap. You're going to get it just under a different roadmap item. Microsoft Teams View Switcher. This feature is postponed due to a redesign and will be republished as soon as the timeline is defined. So this is the new view switcher in the top bar of a Teams meeting, which allows participants to control how they prefer to see the meeting content, like together mode, focus, gallery on top, and full screen. So postponed for now, but it should be coming back out as part of a redesign. Keep your eyes open. Outlook for Windows, every meeting online for GCC. This feature is postponed and will be republished as the timeline is defined. You're going to hear that as the timeline is defined really frequently coming out here. Outlook for Windows, every meeting online for GCC High and DoD, same thing. Will be republished as soon as the timeline is defined. Microsoft Teams, related content during meeting scheduling on mobile. This feature is delayed with an unforeseeable future date. That sounds so ominous. We will communicate when this feature is coming available. So basically, if you're looking at a Teams meeting on your mobile device, it usually tried to give you, hey, this attachment may be related. This email may be related. Apparently, you're not going to be getting that due to an unforeseeable future date. Exchange online, tag for external email. This roadmap is canceled as a duplicate, so you will be getting it at some point. I'm sorry, you are going to get it. It's just going to be under a different number, so you don't have to worry about that one if you were concerned about it. Planner, view planner tasks on your Outlook calendar for GCC High, GCC, and DoD. This is postponed and will be republished when the timeline is confirmed. So you're going to get it at
really disappointing.
Yeah, but you are going to get it, just not as soon as you wanted it.
Yeah, today.
Today, Microsoft in search for Office 365 for Business, topics in Microsoft 365 profile cards. This feature's just been canceled. They don't give any explanation, don't tell you why. You're just not going to get it. Plain and simple. It's canceled. Microsoft Teams, team webinar capabilities for GCC. This feature is postponed and will be republished as soon as the timeline is defined. They really like that particular thing this time. I'm going to skip over the next one just because I find it really funny. I'm going to go to the last one, then come back to it. Microsoft Viva, focus time experiences in Viva Insights app in Microsoft Teams. This feature has been delayed. A new roadmap entry will be added when we have new information. So it sounds like you're going to get this, but they just have to do some additional work on it and get it ready for prime time. So this one, Vizio, new capabilities in Vizio for the web. And I laugh about this because I think we actually said like last week or the week before that, yeah, you know this is going to be canceled and it's going to come back as like 4 or 5 different items. Well, guess what? This item is removed from the roadmap and replaced by 4 individual items. And so this was a set of features so you could get access to new tools like draw, shape, recent colors, custom colors, format painter, grid to snap. There were a lot of things they were going to do that all seem to be in this one. And they've decided that no, they're going to split these out into 4. So it's easier probably to manage these new capabilities and adding the new tools. But I just thought it was funny when we first saw it and it was like, yeah, that one doesn't fly. And sure enough, it didn't. So on that note, that takes us through all the cancellations. Tamara, any last words of wisdom you want to share for our viewers before we call this a webinar finish here?
Tune in next week for more amazing things with the Microsoft roadmap.
Bum bum bum. we need to have like play out music, boom boom boom, and yeah, no. Okay, that didn't go over well. I'll hear about that one as soon as we hang up.
Yep.
With that, everyone. Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna leave my office door closed so you can't come in. You're coming in anyway, aren't you? Pretty much.
It has a doorknob.
It does. Dang. With
All
that,
right,
everybody.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.